Alright, we're recording for Chapter 8 of Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Um, I'm okay with this chapter. I don't remember which video it was where I mentioned that it seemed like, we were here, and like Wrath of Khan was up here, and it's like, that's a 4, but this, it seems very steady, very flat at about this level, which is still a good level. I'm still feeling like this will be a 3, just a straight recommendation. It's possible to fall down to a 2, we'll see. But it's still hanging pretty solid. So it starts off for. By the way, I have a headache, so I might be closing my eyes some for this. Sorry. So we start off on the Enterprise bridge. Bridge crew there talking a little bit. I heard the whole Pente kind of thing. First highlight I have here is concerning Spock. After many years spent among humans, he had learned to accept his heritage and the fact that he possessed emotions. Technically all Vulcans do, but moving on. He had even come to see how he had overcompensated for the fact, which Dr. McCoy had taken great pains to point out, on one occasion accusing Spock of trying to out-Vulcan the Vulcans. Yet he remained devoted to logic. He was most comfortable in this role as a Vulcan and saw no advantage in abandoning it now. While certain positive emotions experienced judiciously might enhance life, none could be permitted to control it. And so Spock contained those he experienced now: frustration, anger, despair, and strongest of all, an entirely irrational guilt. Mainly I highlighted that because I just like the Spock coming to the recognition that, yeah, he has emotions. They are there. Don't let them control him, but they are still part of him, and he should acknowledge that. Because, that I believe is what all Vulcans should be striving for, and is kind of the whole, logic is only the beginning of wisdom, not the end. And he said to Valeos earlier. So we get the whole him commanding the recording from Kronos 1 being hit, put up on the screen, and we get the whole Chekhov saying it is the Enterprise we fired, Scotty saying no. Then we get Valeris having a comment here that definitely is not in the movie. I can understand if they didn't even film it. Valeris swiveled to face Spock. Captain? Her tone was unusually diffident, soft. Isn't it logical to consider all possibilities? This is most difficult to say, but has it occurred to... Scott turned sharply to frown at her, and she recoiled slightly. To any of us that Captain Kirk is... That is, we know his feelings about Klingons, what they did to his... Her and Chekhov were both glaring in open disapproval at her. Spock's own gaze was impenetrable. She broke off, then lifted her chin in pale defiance. Well, it is a possibility. It's like... I don't know if this is her being stupid, or her being stupid and a conspirator, because it could just be she's stupid and is just saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. But it could also be she's a conspirator and is just trying to say, well, maybe it was actually him, as though to avert suspicion. Although it could also work to galvanize her against suspicion, against being suspected, because if everyone's like, you're stupid, they're not going to think that she would do this. So yeah, we got that. Then there's also this. Okay, yeah. The scene returned to Kronos because Spock asks it to be played again. To Kronos 1, it should be specified because Kronos is the name of the Klingon homeworld. And that would have been established at this point, at least in TNG, I believe. But anyhow. Hovering placidly in starry space, a flash appeared in the bottom right sector of the screen. Hold, Spock ordered. He studied the frozen image. They had all been making the same assumption based on sheerly visual evidence. The torpedo's trajectory made it appear that they had been fired from the Enterprise. However, an image rose unbidden in his consciousness. Jim Kirk, his features twisted with anger, saying, "They never even saw the ship that attacked them. The phase of fire seemed to come out of nowhere." So, Kirk had also had it enter his mind earlier. Now Spock as well. The whole... There was some claims that the Klingons have a ship that can fire while cloaked, essentially. He hasn't yet gotten to that conclusion here, but I mean, that's literally on the next page. We have this line from Spock saying to Scotty in the whole all things being equal line. But we get some more here. All things being equal, Mr. Spock, I would agree. Normally, the power drain caused by a cloaking device is too great to allow simultaneous use of weaponry. However, all things are not equal. This one can. I got a problem with this. Because my headcanon, for one thing, for the technology, is not that a cloaking device just takes so much power you can't use the weapons. Because for one thing, that's kind of easy to overcome. You just need more power, or even some way to charge up the weapons, then activate the cloak, and then have a glass cannon kind of thing, where it's like a single powerful attack, but then you don't lose the cloak because you like a capacitor bank or something. So there's that. But there's also, we've had cloaked ships traveling at warp before. I would think superluminal travel takes more power than taking a torpedo in a tube, pushing it out, and then having it go by its own power to travel wherever. I mean, it's just... Because they must have the ability to produce their own thrust since they do navigate around. So it's... Yeah, it just... Well... Now, I guess it is possible that it could just be using some other method, isn't wholly producing thrust, but is still maneuvering. Like, it can't necessarily speed up in a single direction, but in any case, I don't like that explanation. To me, the headcanon has always been that it's just the cloaking field doesn't like things crossing over it, so when you fire through it and something is crossing out of it, it would just shatter the cloaking field and expose you. Or even it would shatter the field and completely expose you. Like, not just where it came out, but all around. That's always how it made sense to me. That's a specific technical limitation of the cloak. So, yeah. I don't know. Maybe my thinking is wrong, and I should accept this. But it's also, I don't... A greater power system isn't necessarily that difficult. Especially when considered that cloaking field should be largely based on surface area, which increase by a square, whereas the power generation should actually be based on volume, which would be cubic. So as you increase the size of a ship in just one dimension, like if it were a sphere, as you increase it this way, your volume's increasing at a much higher rate. So the ability to produce more power should be increasing faster than the amount of surface area that the cloak needs to cover. That is, I'm assuming that it's largely on the surface that the cloak field is doing its thing, not inside, which would technically contradict Search for Spock, where it describes even those on the ship can see their appearances change, but that did not continue into Voyage Home, and is not how it has ever been depicted before or after, so yeah. I gotta be technical, though, because it's who I am. We then have this that... there is an explanation. There's a possible explanation here, but it's still a little bit of an issue. The databanks claim we fired. If we did, the killers are here. If we did not, whoever altered the databanks is here. In any event, what we are searching for is here. So, this statement is true. Chekhov's frown deepened. What are we searching for, Mr. Spock? He turned towards Valeris, certain that she understood. In her studies, she had excelled in logical deduction. Tell him, Lieutenant. She straightened self-consciously in response to his scrutiny. 2 pairs of gravity boots. And this is in the movie. But in the movie, it's a little easier to let it just go by and not catch that. How does one have to do with the other? How did gravity boots connect to the databanks? Whoever the assassins are, as far as the personal assassins, yes, they had on the gravity boots. They still could have beamed on and off from their own separate ship. They don't have to be on Enterprise. It could be somebody else on the Enterprise that modified the databanks. In which case, you don't necessarily have that physical evidence. You may have technological evidence, like who has the ability to make such an edit, and then see who had access at the time that the change had to have been made. So yeah, it's. But I get the whole you want to provoke a search of the ship. That's fine, but it's still just you don't actually know that the people that were on that went and personally assassinated Gorkon are at all on the Enterprise or associated with the Enterprise. You don't know that, but there is still somebody on the Enterprise. That is a fact. Continuing on, have a OCR error here. McCoy is thinking about death by freezing because he's on Ropente at this point, and says at least not a human body, a capital AW, which I think is supposed to be his and just italicized, which would explain how you'd get A and W. I could see OCR making that error. For what it's worth, that's the only one I've encountered. I'm actually going through a different book for pleasure, and oh boy, there's so many more. And the funny thing is, that's a print book. Just whatever they use as the source of the text, no one checked it. Because oh boy, there are far worse OCR errors than this in it. Anyway, as he and I think it's at 14 others, 14 other prisoners are being walked along the outside of Ropente before they go in. We get this line. The scene struck McCoy as surrealistic. This was barbarianism from a bygone era. We knew they read Shakespeare. Something tells me they read Dumas as well. Well, Dumas too. It's like, I am not overly familiar with his works. I'm just trying to remember what all he did. I think that's Les Mis. Les Miserables is one, which I shouldn't say Les Mis, because technically that's referring to the musical. Okay, he is also Three Musketeers and Count Monte Cristo. Okay. Didn't he do Les Miserables? Let me just check. I could be wrong. Did a version of the Nutcracker? Might be easy if I look up Les Miserables. Yep, okay. Okay, so who did Les Miserables? Victor Hugo. Okay, sorry. I shouldn't confuse those. It's just, yeah. Sorry. But yeah, what else has he done? Do I know anything that Dumas has, have I read anything he's done? Who did that? So I feel like that's also right time period. Maybe not. Hang on. Because I've read The Phantom of the Opera, and finding that is going to be much harder. But hang on. Now, let me also just pull this up. So it's Victor Hugo. I just want to find out if at least I've got like time periods correct. Uh, 1802 to 1885. Yeah. Oh, wow. Dumas was actually born in the same year, 1802 to 1870. But who... Okay, 1910 novel for Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. 1868 to 1927. So, near-contemporary. I think he and Hugo overlapped, but barely with Dumas, because he died in 1870. But okay, so I'm not completely insane, at least as far as time period goes. But anyhow. So now we're on Ropente with Kirk and McCoy, and one thing here, because Kirk is like, we'll manage until Spock gets here, because he knows about the Viridian patch or whatever it is. How that gets through the Klingon sensors, I don't know. But in any case, he's got that, so he knows that Spock will be able to find him. But there's this thing that's also kind of curious. So, why do you always have to be such a damn Pollyanna in these situations? Spock doesn't know where Rurapente is. No one in the Federation does. And even if they did, they'd never be able to get here. We're somewhere in the Klingon Empire. It's like, I find that interesting, the idea that no one knows where Rurapente is outside of the Klingon Empire. I mean, that does make sense as far as preventing rescues, but also doesn't make sense because how do you make sure things aren't on star charts? I don't know. It just seems like, and especially because you are using it, does seem to me that that there would be people that would know where it is besides just those who need to know. So. Now, the specific entrance on Rurapente, that I can see being secret. But the planetoid that they're on, it's like, nah, people should know where that is. Anyway, the final portion of the chapter, Quan Mei did not particularly feel like smiling. She's glad to see Carol awake at last, but at the same time she dreaded this moment. So Carol does in fact wake up, so she is recovering successfully. Might not be completely out of the woods, but she is getting better, so yay, that's good. Quan Mei, well, Carol wants to know what all is going on, like, who did we lose? Quan Mei can't help but admit that Solar, the Vulcan, did die, but does lie to Carol that she said it was instant, he never knew it was coming. That is false, he actually bled to death. But, to his credit, he, before dying, and he knew he was dying, helped her. He did speak to her and help her with the others, so good for him. I don't like that Quan Mei basically says that, yeah, I never said anything, I didn't say anything to Jackson, I'm not going to tell her, I'm just lying to her, so she'll never find out. It's like, I understand lying to her in the moment because she needs to focus on her own recovery and not think about what others have gone through. But also, just tell her later. It's like, I get the idea, but you don't want that lie hanging on you like that. Such because it's an unnecessary lie later in time. So there's that. She does also know she has to, even though when questioned she fails to, but she does know I have to tell her about Kirk. Because I can't let it be someone else that tells her. And it's like, yeah, that's true. That's true. But it does end with basically just saying, yeah, he was here, but then Starfleet called him away, and Carol's just like, oh, that damn Starfleet timing. Yeah, they probably have him on some crazy mission. So, yeah, it's kind of leaving it that, which again, for the moment, because it's like she just woke up, I can understand not telling her everything. Let that wait. Because, I mean, it's kind of like how, you actually wonder how accurate this is, but I can believe it is accurate, that you see in various movies and television, that you have somebody who is in a coma, even, wake up, they talk for a little bit, and then they go right back to sleep. And they're encouraged, go ahead, go to sleep. And it's, that may seem odd, but is like, well, a coma is different from sleeping. And so I could just see it being yeah, you're tired, you need to keep resting, go back to, you can go to sleep. But the fact that they woke up and now we're going to a normal sleep is still a good thing. So I'm not sure if that's accurate. It makes sense to me that it would be, that is realistic, but don't know. Don't know for certain. Don't have a medical background. But it still is if it's something, if telling her certain things would make it harder for her to sleep, don't say them. Let her fall asleep. Worry about it later when she is doing better. That's all I got. I mean, I do have a headache, so... And there wasn't that much more to the chat. I mean, some, but a lot of it is kind of filler stuff. Like, we meet Martia, and we find out why she's there smuggling, and the point is also made that if you're on Rurapente, you're there for life. So, yeah. Oh, the Brotherhood of Aliens, that's explained, is basically, yeah, it's everyone who's just not a Klingon on Rurapente is in the Brotherhood of Aliens. So it's like, you lied to us? Yes, certainly, of course I am. Can you please put me down now? It's like, okay, good. But yeah, so we'll see how some of that continues to go. But nothing clear about who the conspirators are at the moment. I mean, at least Martia, I think we will get more on. Valeris, I don't know. We'll probably get some on, but when we get the mind meld later. But I don't know fully. Yeah. Just we'll have to keep reading and keep finding out. I'm good with that because I am enjoying it. I would love if it were. It would have been great if this were better than the Wrath of Khan novelization. It's not. It's not thus far, and I doubt it is going to improve. But if it just maintains what it is, I'm still going to be happy. So, all right. See you next time.